Welcome aboard. This is the Miles to Go podcast. And now here's your host, Ed Pizza.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Miles to Go podcast. Mr. Kerr and I are both road weary. I saw pictures of him on Instagram in what might have looked like a Delta plane, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. I have been to your favorite city twice in the past 10 days, Mr. Kerr, hanging out in New York City more than once. Can't wait to share my stories with you. How are you?
As you hear from the yawn, I'm just out of gas, man. Very long week last week, very long couple days in New York. My parents came and stayed all weekend. We're recording very late for us, just a day before this goes out. Monday was incredibly busy. Today is not looking any more white space on the calendar, man, but I am looking forward to this weekend. That is for sure. I just got to get there. Got to get there first.
Got to get there. And we will be together in Orlando this weekend, won't we?
Together again, me and Ed, my best friend. Together again.
Oh my gosh, that was so beautiful.
It sounds like I was trying to do like a Mary Tyler Moore meets Andy Griffith, whatever. A little 50s, 60s sitcom ditty. I'll work on it.
I think you seem a little young for Mary Tyler Moore. I'm just saying.
Well, I never said I watched it. I did watch Andy Griffith all the time.
Yeah, okay. On reruns.
Absolutely reruns. Yeah, I'm a sucker for some Barney shenanigans. So
it was that on like Lifetime or TBS or something.
It was on Nick at Night.
Nick at Night. Andy Griffith was on Nick at Night.
Maybe it was Nick at Night, or maybe it was, I don't remember, the other channel my parents used to watch all the time. Because, boy, this is funny. I saw the show this weekend for the first time forever and made my kids watch about 10 seconds of it, and they did not get it. It was a little bit of Gilligan's Island is what.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
A 3-hour tour.
What was going on with the Professor and Marianne? Have we discussed that yet?
Oh, man. Yeah, well, we should put up a poll. I have a poll for this week, but we should put up a poll. Ginger or Marianne, just to see where our listeners, or the
Skipper Gilligan for the fellas.
I think Professor versus Gilligan would be more appropriate. I'm not sure the Skipper is going to get a lot of votes. Just say.
I know some people we can ask.
Oh, we are fully off the rails, and we are mere minutes into recording. Some of the stuff that we hope to cover this week, we're going to talk a little bit about Aeroplan sign-up bonus. Because we're recording late, we actually get to talk about Built Rent Day. We're going to talk a little bit. I need your help, Mr. Kerr, on a number of fronts. So I've got questions for you, as well as a poll question for the audience for one of the questions. And if you're lucky, I'm going to give you some fresh meat to talk about my New York Yankees. So a lot to cover there.
I was going to leave that out of here. I didn't want to make you cry.
You should.
Okay.
But I will say, I still got the gear on. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the Yankee sweatshirt on.
There's
Not
still
a
chance. Still a chance.
It was the most miserable 3 games. We'll talk more about that in a minute. A little bit of housekeeping. If you're just tuning into us, you can text us or leave us a voicemail 571-293-6659. He's on social media. Kerr Points on all those social media channels. I am at Pizza in Motion, and if you want to do that good old fashioned email thing, ed@pizzainmotion.com to shoot us an email. Lastly, because we will be talking a little bit about the Slack community in a bit. If you want to help support the show, a couple of bucks a month, actually more than a couple of bucks a month, but send us all your money and you can be a part of our Slack community, ask questions from travel experts, weekly happy hours, and the occasional meetup. Last bit of housekeeping, Mr. Kerr, for folks that are tuning in, I'll put a link to this in the show notes, but in honor of the fact that I will not be running a 10K with you this week, we're doing another fundraiser for Give Kids the World, which, as you well know, is an incredible charity. They are the behind the scenes folks for kids who make a wish. The Make a Wish Foundation say they want to visit Disney World or Universal. Give Kids the World provides them with a house for a week, medical treatments, nurses on call, as much ice cream as they can stomach, character meet and greets, special vans that help transport them to the parks. It's a really incredible place. Okay, it costs about $6,000 to host a family there for a week. And Give Kids the World is able to do that through donations. We've raised, by our calculations, over $100,000 for them since we started raising money for them in a various number of fundraisers. But we have another one going on right now, and love it if you guys could kick in even $5 to help. As part of that, we're going to have an Ask Me Anything this weekend, or as the cool kids say, an AMA, where you can ask Mr. Kerr, Summer, Julian or myself a question, and we will prioritize questions from those who donate. Also, some pretty cool giveaways for folks as well. Some headphones, some Disney swag, and we might even give away some points and miles if you're lucky. So hopefully folks can find $5 hanging out in their wallet and help support us.
That place is amazing. About this time of year, here in a few weeks, they do, I think it's the Night of a Million Lights at the Village down in Orlando, which I got to go to a few years ago. And you really get the sense of how special this place is. And then something important to me, they're always rated incredibly high as far as expense management and charity goes by all the charity watch organizations out there. So your money goes to an incredible cause and is handled very well. I absolutely love that place.
100%. The Night of a Million Lights is now had to get moved off site because all the houses are occupied now. Where when you and I first went during COVID, part of the Village was shut down. In fact, it was completely shut down for a little while during COVID. But they've moved it. They found a more permanent location for Night of a Million Lights. And if you haven't seen it, it's pretty incredible. And to your point, they're at least as far as I've seen, the highest rated charity I've ever supported on Charity Navigator. So great cause to support. And we hope folks will contribute there. All right, Mr. Kerr, along with my first Waffle House visit ever this week, lots of stuff to catch up on. But if I'm correct, I believe I saw a picture on your Instagram feed of you on a Delta plane, which is a really good segue to as Howie said a couple of years ago, come 2025, Kerr, you're just going to be flying Delta.
Yeah, it's inevitable. We've talked about this many times over the course of being an Atlanta resident of how I'm going to do most of my flying. I've played the game with American and United, and it's just not working out. When American canceled my LaGuardia to Atlanta route, which was just the best way to commute, period, and then was lucky enough to acquire some status on United, but Newark this year, man, was just unbearable, and they continue to struggle with the new air traffic control setup that they have going there. Not a good look at all, where, every trip even 48 hours before I started watching and it just got to be too stressful. So that led to a status challenge over to Delta, which I enrolled in the last week. I got challenged up to Platinum Medallion, which is all you really need to get Comfort Plus at booking, free same-day change. So those are the two things that I am after. Upgrades in Atlanta are not going to happen. I already used the same-day change on that first trip to New York last week. So, started my flying on Delta. It is the best way to fly domestically in economy. Again, the problems that are just rearing their heads already, man. I book all my flights pretty short in, which we've chatted about many times because of the number of times that planes change. Sure enough, if there's an aisle seat left, then that's a great day. Comfort Plus, forget about it. As of time of recording, I have to go to Dallas-Fort Worth for one night, and 10 days from now, no Comfort Plus on any flight to DFW on the day I need to fly. And most planes only have one aisle seat left. The rest is middle seats. And that's 10 days out. So not a lot of pretty seats awaiting me. I'm going to be collecting Sky Miles, but I think ultimately travel for me these days is as efficient as possible from A to B on time with as little wait as possible. And I think Delta is just the only way to make that happen. So that's the plan going forward. I'll try. I think I have until the end of January to get $3,750 MQD, which is $3,750 spend on airfare before taxes and fees. Actually pretty high, except, man, I started looking, dude, I just really forgot how expensive flying Delta out of Atlanta is. It's just really amazing how expensive it is. I mean, flying to DFW, again, looking 10 days out, one-way flights are $469 right now. I thought that would be a little better with American competing on the route, obviously.
Right.
But no, sir. It is expensive and the planes are full. So, high airfare, maybe, but is it a better product on board? Free Wi-Fi, yes. In-flight entertainment on every plane, yes. Is the staff, marginally more excited to be at their job than American United? Yes, in my experience on board, the flight crew. And is there a flight anywhere I need to go nonstop? There sure is. So, not too excited about collecting Sky Miles, but, I think the schedule overall is what it comes down to, and really avoiding Newark on all of my commutes to and from New York City. So I can go JFK or LaGuardia. Flew into JFK, actually, because they had a 757 that actually did have a little space left, and then flew out of LaGuardia because I was flying home on a Friday night. And if getting out of the city on a Friday night to get to Newark or JFK is a big no, sir. So I took ended up being about 50 minutes in the lift from the office to LaGuardia, which is still pretty brutal.
Yeah.
I do not have Sky Club access. So I don't have an Amex Platinum right now. Dude, I looked.
Hmm.
We talked about it multiple times, but I looked at the reserve card. Who and what in the world, man? $600 for only 10 visits? I thought for sure I was reading that wrong. And no bonus spend categories outside of Delta. Why do you have a reserve card? I think Ed has it because he can put massive business spend on it and can maintain his status. But a personal reserve card just for somebody that wants to like fly Delta, dude, I do not get it at all. So not too worried about Sky Club access. Again, I took a picture of LaGuardia Friday evening. The line out of the Sky Club in LaGuardia was no joke.
Yeah.
Like, what a waste of time. I think my last 5 airport trips, I haven't gone in a lounge, and like, I don't care. I stop and get a sandwich or a wrap and then sit at the gate, and where everybody, at least in LaGuardia, they got plugs right there, and do my thing. I skipped the Sky Club experience.
Yeah, a lot to process there. I think first off, I was in New York yesterday, and I got to see our friend Clint Henderson, who is listening to the show, and we were talking about the Delta Reserve card, and he mentioned how I forget whether it's a $10 or a $20 Resi credit on a monthly basis. I think it's a $20 Resi credit. Anyway, he was talking about using the Resi credits, and I made the sarcastic offhanded comment of like, sure, but you're not putting any spending on the card, and he's like, well, no. And it's just like, well, like, then why are you keeping it? And I think that's to your point, I think that's the tough part about that card is it's just, unless you're going to use the lounge, it's really hard to get value out of the card because you shouldn't be putting spending on it. And it's difficult to use the lounge in most of the airports you're going to fly to. So I think that's a tough part. I think from a traveling experience standpoint, and I think, for folks who watch us on a regular basis or listen, this, but for folks who are new to the show, Richard and I, while we do play the games on collecting miles and points and a bunch of credit cards in our wallet, like we know that most of the people that are listening and watching are folks that might have a card or two in their wallet, and they're more like normal travelers. And so for a normal traveler, you're in this situation now where you're almost never going to get upgraded. And so the ability to, for at least from my standpoint, the ability to use a laptop in a coach seat is really difficult. It's why I downsized my laptop. Then you take it a step further and say, if you're in a middle seat or you're in a non-extra legroom seat, I don't.
No, there's no chance. I actually tried to use my laptop on the flight to JFK. I did get Comfort Plus. Right. On that flight, again, if you fly to JFK and not LaGuardia or Newark out of Atlanta, you got a decent shot if it's a 757. I did catch there. But dude, even in the Comfort Plus, trying to work on it was hopeless, man. It was a futile effort.
Was that the one where you had the no seat in front of you in the exit row on the 321? Or was that, so you said 757, sorry.
321 coming home, but there's no elbow room for me, right? Like trying to tap.
And not just that too, but the tray table in those exit rows, even though you have space, the tray table in the seat in the armrest is a joke. You can't put a laptop on it; just bounces.
The bouncy, flimsy thing. And there's no chance. So, unless I'm flying up front, there's no hope of me getting any work done on a flight, outside of my phone. And
that's a tough one. That's a tough one for me from a productivity standpoint. I get a lot done on planes when the Wi-Fi works. Looking at you, United. And so, that's a big minus. I am curious, and I'm not saying this jokingly because I know it's a real question. Over the span of 10, 20, 30, 40 flights, you'll get a better sense of this. But I do think, to your point, there are going to be times where the only choice you're going to have for a Comfort Plus seat is a middle seat. And then there's, a regular legroom seat where you'll be in an aisle or a window. And I'm curious what you think you're going to pick.
I'm not sitting in the middle seat, man. I'm too big. It's so uncomfortable. My shoulders are too big. My legs, I'm just not a small fella. And anytime I'm sitting in a middle seat, I spend the entire flight consciously pulling my shoulders and my legs in so that I don't accidentally man spread on anybody, be it a woman or man next to me. And it's just so uncomfortable the whole time because I cannot just sit and relax. So I'll be taking an aisle or a window all day, every day, rather than a Comfort Plus middle seat.
Yeah, and I think this is where, some of the degradations in the Expert Flyer products, really hurt because, way back in the day, you used to be able to set a seat map alert for Delta. There are current seat map problems with United and American right now with Expert Flyer, but Delta hasn't had seat maps on Expert Flyer in, years.
Yeah.
So there's really, other than you just checking on a repeated basis, if if aisles and windows are sold out in Comfort Plus, you're really just playing the lottery on how many times you can click and check to see if a seat's available.
We've talked about this before, but I still don't get it. And I know some Delta employees listen to the show. The random blocking of the seats. There's always 2 blocked in Comfort Plus, and then there's random block seats. Like, what is this? What are these blocks, and what is that for? Like that, somebody please send us a DM and email or Slack and tell us what those random block seats are for.
Yeah, the best answer I've gotten is, quote unquote families, but the blocks they put in for that just don't make sense.
And if you only got on a 737, there's 3 rows of Comfort Plus, and the first 2 seats are always blocked. I'm like, that's not an insignificant percentage of your Comfort Plus that's blocked. Like, what?
No. The only thing I guess I could say I would potentially hope Delta would do is something that I saw United start doing. I saw this the other day. I thought it was a problem on the seat map, but I was chatting back and forth with Foz from Dots, Lines, and Destinations, and he didn't even know this, and he knows some nerdy ass stuff about United. There was a seat map that I saw where I think having seen enough United seat maps, that their general rule of thumb is it's economy plus back to the exit row. And on this one flight, the right-hand side of the aircraft showed, 8 or 10 rows of economy plus behind the exit row, but only on the right-hand side. And I was like, is this seat map broken? And so it was a 321. And so when I got on board, I actually walked back because I didn't have one of those seats. I walked back to see later on in the flight. And sure enough, they had added economy plus behind the exit row, but only on one side of the plane, which for logistics purposes strikes me as complete lunacy. But it is interesting to see them adding more total economy plus seats, I would imagine, because they think they can sell them. And I would imagine if that's successful, Delta will be watching and should likely do the same.
Been really surprised, especially on some of the 757s that are super long, that it's such a small Comfort Plus section.
Yeah.
But again, it's always sold out. So yeah, would be surprised that they haven't done any refurbs to sell more. And then as a Platinum, always a bummer that they're always sold out. Booked.
All right, well, that's a good transition to my Delta question. And you answered this in our group text thread with Howie, but I want to ask it here on the show, and then I'll ask listeners and viewers to message us with your opinions. So the time has come for me to make a consequential decision, Mr. Kerr.
Uh-oh.
Yep. So I have, at time of recording, I have 238,000 rollover MQMs from years gone by. And for those who don't know, Delta is offering a one-time conversion of rollover MQMs because that program has been sunsetted. And so I currently have Diamond status. I've only flown Delta a handful of times this year. I think I've had 3 Delta flights this year. So they've given me a choice, and there were 3 choices. I'm only considering 2 of them. But for those 238,000 rollover MQMs, I can have one of 2 things, Mr. Kerr. I can have an additional 2 years of Diamond status, or I can have 119,000 Sky Miles. In our text thread, you said that you would take the 2 years of Diamond. And I'm curious to hear your thinking on that, knowing that I'm unlikely to fly Delta a ton.
You can get 119,000 Sky Miles anytime you want with your business bin. You cannot get Diamond status anytime you want. And for those few flights that you will be taking Delta, or you don't know that you'll be taking Delta, it'll be pretty nice. Plus, you get choice benefits with the Diamond status for 2 years as well, which I'm pretty sure one of them is redeemable miles. So, it's just... To me, it is a no-brainer to take that status for 2 years versus, what is probably an economy flight to London for 119,000 Sky Miles or whatever.
Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah. For just a second, I thought you said business class flight to London, and I was about to ask if you were crazy.
No, that's 300,000 or 400,000, especially here out of Atlanta.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, I can't wait next week to talk about the impending Virgin changes that are going to be rolling out, I think, here a couple of days after recording. But to me, the Diamond status is a no-brainer there.
Yeah, you brought up one point that I hadn't considered, which was the choice benefits. And so I do need to go back and do that math and see what I'd choose. I did get value out of the global upgrade certificates on our flight from Haneda to Honolulu. That was sort of a one-off. I think getting, renewing Diamond status for 2 years and hoping to get 4 global upgrades on an international flight of value, I think that would probably be a bridge too far. But to your point, even if I just cashed in the miles, that might be a better choice. I got to do that math, and I appreciate you spelling that out, man. But if you're listening or watching, I hope you'll look for the poll question in the show notes, or just find us on Instagram or Twitter and tell us your thoughts. What would you choose? Knowing I'm going to fly, no more than 10 Delta flights a year, and probably more like 5 or 6. would you choose 2 years of Diamond or would you choose 119,000 Sky Mile?
That time you get stuck somewhere in a snowstorm and you can call the Diamond line and get priority moved over to a new flight, be like, heck yeah, glad I did that.
All right, well, let's park that one for now. Let's talk a little bit about Built Rent Day. I got a couple other things I want to talk about. Hopefully we get some time to talk about the Yankees, but I can't talk today. Based on our delay in recording time, we actually get this window where you guys have released Rent Day for this month, but it hasn't happened yet. And so some of these offers require a little bit of preparation time, some of the special dining packages and stuff that you guys have, including, I hope I get it right, Built-Giving.
Built-Giving.
Talk through what you guys are offering for Rent Day this month. I can cover what I got targeted for, but tell folks what's out there for Rent Day when this drops tomorrow.
Yeah, a lot of the usual lineups where we have some really great dining experiences. Again, these are restaurants that you really want to go to in the markets that they're hosted in. Probably reservations that are typically hard to get. We've made some amazing relationships with hospitality groups, and they let us set these dining reservations up that are for like full multi-course meals plus drinks for a very reasonable amount of Built points. So check that out. We also have some Thanksgiving cooking classes happening with some very well-known chefs on November 1st that you can redeem points for. Usual Soul Cycle classes, usual double points. Also, all Built card holders for the next, by the time listening to this, 2 days have 2x points at grocery stores up to $500 in spend. So get your double points. That ends on October 31st because on the 1st you get double points anyways. So it's kind of a little 5-day window here of double points at grocery stores for up to $500, which we feel like is, hey, here's double points on a really solid family grocery trip these days, up to $500. And then the headline benefit is everybody in Built has at least a 50% transfer bonus to British Airways Avios. As you and I know, once you get British Airways Avios, you can transfer those to any of the airlines in the Avios family. Aer Lingus, Iberia, Qatar. And then many hundreds of thousands of people are targeted up to 100% British Airways transfer bonus. I cannot share the reason for that targeting, except to say I thought it was really super clever what British Airways and I cooked up. And there are tons of people that have that offer. And it's been really interesting the last 24 hours since this launch that we did not do this status-based. Now, we're not always going to do it status-based. We're still going to do a lot of things status-based, so nobody freak out like you all have and think that status-based offers are coming to an end. I assure you they are not, as you will see shortly. But we have to drive behaviors that is going to be great for the program, going to be great for partners, so that partners continue to come back and do these things. So 100% of British Airways is great. 50% is still way above market average, which I think some people forget. And really excited to see the results. That transfer bonus is good on November 1st only. And we know that we're going to see tens and tens of millions of Built points headed across the Atlantic so that people can book some pretty cool trips or, British Airways partners, which are abundant across the world.
I would agree. And just for record keeping purposes, I did get targeted for the 100% transfer bonus. So
and I know exactly why you do not. And I literally cannot tell you. Thanks to an NDA.
and I just want to say that I want to call foul on spraining your elbow, patting yourself on the back for how genius this is, but not being willing to tell us any of it. So
it's these nasty corporate NDAs, that I really try and honor. I will say that in not one forum or one Slack group or one blog have I seen anybody come remotely close to the reason for these targets. So that's really fun to sit back and watch everybody guess.
I will say for those that are listening or watching, we've now gotten the second breadcrumb in the trail because last week, Mr. Kerr talked about switching his wife to the Built card for the next year because of all the things that he's cooking up. And this week he said, we're not done with status-based transfer bonuses.
No, I said we're not done with status-based offers for Rent Day. Just
status-based offers for Rent Day. My apologies.
Just to be super clear.
My apologies, Mr. NDA.
And now everybody's going to be like, oh, see, I told you the status bonuses are drying up. Built's done. I'm like, no, stop. No, it's not.
Wait for it. Devaluation.
I got a 50% transfer bonus on my annual fee card. I'm upset. I can't do much for you there except to say, hang in there. This is the 25th Rent Day. I'm sure there will be hundreds of more Rent Days, and I know a couple coming up will bring a big smile to everybody's face.
If there are hundreds more Rent Days, why make it to Rent Day number 100 before retiring? That's 75 weeks, 75 months. That's like 7 years. Oh, man, I'll be old.
Yeah, me too. If I'm still planning the 100th rent day, then I've stagnated in my career.
All right, I want to ask you one more travel question, and then close with some stuff about Aeroplan. I was with them yesterday, and I want to talk about the current Aeroplan offer. So, as you well know, our wives play a significant role in keeping the families going while you and I are on the road. And my wife, who doesn't listen to the show, but maybe this clip will end up in a short that she'll see on Instagram or YouTube. I asked her a question the other day, knowing full well what the answer was going to be, and I even prefaced it that way because you and I know our wives pretty well. I've got this trip coming up to Lisbon, and I'm stopping in London for a couple of days. And just based on some schedule changes and some meetings that I have, I thought I was going to have time to go to someplace else in Europe and then from there end up in Lisbon. But I have to backtrack to London. And so what that means is I'm going to land in London on a Friday night, and then I've got to be back for a full day of meetings on Monday. And I've got 48 hours leaving Saturday morning. And I said to my wife, I go, I know this is one of those questions where, so Jeremiah doesn't have to bleep me. This is going to be one of those like FU travel questions. But on the trip that you can't go on because you're staying home, raising our kids and turning them into great future leaders of the world, where should I go for 48 hours to explore a new destination? And she's like, oh, yeah, you're right. That's definitely an FU question. She did have some suggestions, but I'm curious, looking for a new place to go, love a new dot or a new line on the map. With all of your travel wisdom, Mr. Kerr, using that scenario, landing on a Friday night, I got Saturday and Sunday, got to be back in London Sunday night. Give me some suggestions, man.
Which month is this?
November.
Okay.
But Christmas markets will not have started.
Yeah, let's see. An easy hop from London. Wow, the options are just so plentiful. I will say, man, and all the snow and everything will have already started in the Alps. The destination that has been the most enjoyable and surprised me so far was really Innsbruck, Austria. Host site of the Olympics. The mountain there, the funicular, the history, the churches, the Olympic venues, the easy day trip, even for a weekend, like you can go see Hitler's Eagle Nest, where up in the mountains from there. You can see a lot of the countryside is not very far away. Central Austria, you can go down to you can drive to the Dolomites in northern Italy from there, like a couple hour drive away, or take the train for a day trip to the Like it was a great winter destination for a weekend. Like the weekend was just all you need. Like you don't need to spend a weekend in Innsbruck or anything around there. The airport is also really a dream there with the observation deck. That would be high up on the list for people who haven't checked that out. Otherwise, man, I'm going to find the most boozy SLH Greek island hotel, because what is that, like a 2.5 hour flight, and just go prop my feet up on a ridiculous island resort somewhere in the sun and chill for a couple days, and then 3-hour flight back, if it's 3 hours, maybe not. Probably low cost carrier, so you can get there for like $50 or $60 and pop back, kind of off the beaten path a little bit, I guess. So those would be my 2 recommendations.
I like both of them. I would say I'm sitting here Googling on Google Flights, and from London to Innsbruck, airport code I did not know, INN, there are exactly 0 nonstop flights. And the shortest
really
flight.
Yeah. Really? British
Air. The shortest flight, maybe during the week there is, but on a Saturday there is not. Then the shortest flight time is actually 3 hours and 35 minutes. So that probably means Innsbruck is a punt for another time. But a Greek island could be an option, and I could work on my tan, which, as anybody watching the show can see, I desperately need to work on my tan.
Everybody always talks about the Greek islands, and that's a place I have exactly no experience in. That I feel like it's just something that people ask me about often, and I need to experience that.
I think there's a reasonable chance that if I went to a Greek island for a weekend while my wife was home taking care of our son, that the locks would be changed when I got home. So
yeah, it looks like you got to fly on a Monday, London Gatwick to Innsbruck on EasyJet, $59.
Sleazy Jet. There you go. Nice
to get there. I don't know, man. I'm always a sucker for Denmark, that's for sure. But you were just there. Yeah. I'm sure some people will have some good off the beaten recommendations. My sister did Slovenia, Croatia. Kind of route for a couple of days with a rental car, and she said it was absolutely amazing. Maybe a little bit far for just a weekend, because it's probably a little bit longer of a flight, but
I was
Oh,
trying
that's
for
very close.
Prague. That was high on my list, and I actually ended up buying a one-way ticket on Ryanair to do Prague, and now I'm not sure if I'm going to take it or not. I still have a flight booked back, so that's on the radar. But
Budapest also somewhere highly recommended that I've wanted
yeah,
to check out.
yeah, I
That
don't
would
have
probably
that
be up
dot yet
there.
either. Yep.
Probably be up there on my list.
Yeah.
Maybe a little of that action.
Well, if folks have suggestions, I'd love to have those as well. There've been a bunch of great ones in the Slack community. It's just almost hard to choose. I looked a little bit at potentially northern Spain, like Bilbao or something like that, as a possibility. I thought that was sort of off the charts, but there are some nonstop flight times that work. So that's an option as well that I've sort of thrown out there. And I've only spent a very brief period of time in Madrid. Always wanted to go back there, so that's sort of on the radar as well. But like to your point, like Prague and Budapest and those areas, I haven't explored that part of Europe very often. I've done Salzburg, done Vienna, but would really love to get into that area a little bit more. So
You're looking
definitely.
at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 nonstop flights on a Saturday from the different London airports to Budapest.
Yeah, that's a potential option. I like that idea.
Quite a few.
Yeah.
I think that's where I would go. I would either go to Prague or Budapest and check that out.
All right, last thing before we run out of time, let's talk a little bit about the current Aeroplan sign-up bonus. And as folks who have listened to the show for a while know, that has been a foil of mine for a while to get the Chase Aeroplan card. So was actually with the Aeroplan folks. Scott O'Leary yesterday was in New York. It was my second trip up there for a couple of meetings and then some time with Aeroplan. And I think, this offer that's out right now is, well, I won't give my opinion. I'll wait for Mr. Kerr's opinion first. So $95 annual fee on the Chase Aeroplan card, 75,000 bonus points after you spend $4,000 on purchases in the first 3 months that your account is open. And then you can get another 25,000 points if you spend 20,000 on the card in your first 12 months. So, essentially, call it somewhere between $1,500 and $2,000 a month on the card, which is a reasonable amount of money. You'd effectively, if that was unbonus spend, you'd quote unquote get, double points for that, if you want to think about it that way, if you made that your primary card. So I guess first and foremost, what's your opinions on that offer for that card?
I've speculatively transferred too many airplane points during the rent day bonus that I'm flush right now, and I don't any. But I mean,
let's say you weren't flush.
Yeah, it certainly can't go wrong. I mean, like, cannot go wrong with a year to reach a sign up bonus and get all of those aeroplane points, and you cannot go wrong with aeroplane point. There's no such thing as too many aeroplane points. So, I mean, super solid offer. If you're under 524 and looking for a way to travel internationally or catch some short domestic United hops, I could not fault anybody for saying, hey, I got this card and this sign-up bonus. Like, it's, a solid currency.
Yeah, the story that I told yesterday, which I think is a great example of the flexibility of Aeroplan. I have a colleague of mine who's a fellow Five Guys franchisee, and he and his wife do a bunch of work in Africa. And they have a mission that they support in Entebbe, airport code EBB, another one that I did not have on my radar before helping them find a flight. And they normally spend, $2,000 to $3,000 round trip to find, coach tickets to get to Entebbe when they go, because they live down in the Charlotte area. And so we started poking around, and we managed to find a number of flight options for him. And the one that he chose was out of DC. So he's got to reposition. There's a little bit of cost there to reposition from the Charlotte area up to DC. But he's going DC to Entebbe on Ethiopian for 80,000 miles one way and $165 Canadian, which is probably like 120 US for business class. So he's spending less, even if you just, think about the value of the points without, with the value of an ultimate reward point just on a travel credit. You're spending less than it would have cost him for a cash ticket, and he's flying in business class instead of coach. And sure, like maybe Ethiopian isn't as great as Air Canada or United Polaris or some of the other stuff, but it sure beats the heck out of flying from DC to Addis and Addis to Entebbe in a coach seat.
Yeah. That's always the comparison people forget. They go, oh, that's no good. And I'm like, well, you're still up front and you're not in the back of the bus. So, and that's still no fuel surcharges. So you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, and I think for me, at least, living, where I live, anybody who's, I'd say, mid-Atlantic to Northeast, and same thing for the West Coast, I think using Toronto and Vancouver as connecting hubs to get to Europe or Asia, respectively, is super easy. And to your point about New York and all the disasters of, why I took a train home on Amtrak last night. Once I saw that a couple of flights were delayed out of Newark, instead of trying to chance what time I'd get home if I, trained out of the city to Newark and waited for a delayed flight. There are a lot of upsides to avoiding New York airspace, which is a common connecting point for a lot of people that live on the East Coast. And I think that adds a lot of value to the airplane program. People don't think about, people in the US don't think I'll connect in Toronto to get to Europe. And I think that's one of those, sneaky, easy things to look for that makes travel much easier for folks.
Yeah. Mrs. Kerr and I have done that because the flight time Atlanta to Toronto is almost exactly the same as Atlanta to New York. So why not go connect in Toronto with airplane points? And look, Air Canada's own business class is fantastic.
Yes.
The soft and the hard product. So if you have not checked it out, I highly recommend you do.
Yep. And then as Scott pointed out when he was talking yesterday, I don't know if the value is always going to be there for this, but if you are connecting in Toronto or Vancouver and you purchase a flex business class award instead of a standard business class award, you also get access to Signature Suites, which is an incredible meal in both Toronto and Vancouver. Again, I'm not sure if the miles are worth it. You have to look at the fare to see if it makes sense for you. But Signature Suites, there is sort of like their, call it, 4-star restaurant in the airport. Not really a lounge per se, although it does have lounge elements to it. Just really high quality, awesome food on a connecting flight. Alas, Mr. Kerr, the story does not end on a high note.
Uh-oh.
So so as high as I am on the Aeroplan program, and as long as it took me to get the card, I have sad news to report that amongst the craziness of my travel life, I missed earning the sign-up bonus for the Aeroplan card.
Did you?
I really did.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
You got the first portion of it, right? But not the second portion?
No.
No. I thought we were going for $1 million on this thing for the permanent companion pass.
And I got it, and I said, all right, I'm going to start this in 2025, and I'll have the pass for 2026. And completely bonked on the sign-up bonus. So just in case everybody out there is thinking, wow, these guys are travel experts, I would just submit to you that maybe Mr. Kerr is a travel expert, but along the way, life happens and your favorite quote unquote travel experts do really stupid things. And I signed up for the card and did not earn the sign-up bonus.
Oh man, that's rough. I feel like I've missed a sign-up bonus before. I know specific. Definitely has some close calls, but dude, that stinks. That stinks.
Yep.
Yeah.
It does stink, but we'll try to close out on a happy note because I did visit one of your favorite places in the world. I did visit Waffle House down in Blacksburg this past weekend. We went to go see our daughter and had a delightful breakfast with a breakfast sandwich and then a pecan waffle to finish it off for my wife and daughter. It was exactly what I would have expected from Waffle House visit, which was they were super quick to serve us. Everybody was super friendly. The kitchen looked like the kitchens that I used to run back when I was a high schooler. And the waffle machines had, 6 pounds of waffle mix caked on them. Yep. And the food was,
you know what we call it? Seasoning.
Trust me, I had no issues with it at all. And I would just say, I think, like the waffle's probably a little bit smaller than I was expecting when we talked about the Waffle House challenge. I was expecting it to be a little bit thicker and that I might not be able to get into double digits. Still don't think I could get into double digits in 24 hours, but I feel pretty solid I could get to like 7 or 8. So I don't think I'd have to sleep overnight in the Waffle House.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Many hours and late nights and early mornings sitting sideways in one of those Waffle House booths, going off menu, going rogue, seeing what the servers were up to, perhaps sobering up a little bit after a very long night back in the college days. But it's just it's a comfort spot, man. It's like a cultural comfort spot. People who are going there who are going to like give it a Michelin food star, like you missed the entire point. That's not what it's about. Even though some hash browns, man, I will just apologize for what I do those things. But yeah, I love it.
So I would leave you with 2 observations about my waffle. Well, I guess 3, I would say, because you mentioned hash browns. So I would say my hash browns weren't cooked as I like them. I like them crispy. So
you gotta tell them. Yeah, you gotta tell them. Crispy.
I think I tell them I want crispy hash browns next time because I think that would take a really good meal up to like, wow, great meal. But I would say I would also say just from a cultural standpoint, and maybe it's just me, but I think there's only one place to sit in a Waffle House, and that's at the counter.
Hmm.
We sat at the counter, got to jaw with the staff, having fun, chit chatting the whole bit, and I think just like I loved that part of the experience. Don't get me wrong, like there's nothing wrong with a booth, but sitting at the counter and just girl walked by at one point, saw that my wife's coffee wasn't full, like, hey, you need me to top that up? Like I just growing up in New York and doing the New York diner thing, like I understand they're not the quote unquote same thing, but I felt that hospitality of just like we were right there while they were cooking. We were joking around with them about stuff. And then I would just say for all of the pudginess that exists on my body, that I felt a kinship when I saw the loaves of Wonder Bread and Sunbeam bread behind the counter. Like we're not, there's no sunflower seeds or anything fancy in the bread. It is good old fashioned American Wonder Bread. And it was beautiful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, if I go with just the kids, we got to sit up at the counter because they like to watch them cook on the grill and then always start the chit chat. If we go with the four of us, we got to get in a booth so that we can all have a conversation. But Waffle is special. If you're flying into Atlanta and I happen to be around, there's a Waffle House a couple exits south of the Atlanta airport that only takes me about 20 minutes to get to, and I will try and make it up to anybody that wants to sit down and have double hash browns covered with a cup of coffee.
I like it. All right, well, I'll see you soon in Orlando, and I don't know when we're going to see each other after that, but I'm sure there will be a bunch of crazy travel for you and I to finish out the year. I am over 100,000 miles flown already, and we are still in October, so it's going to be another brutal travel year. I would imagine your finish to your year is probably just as brutal as mine.
We got a lot. There's a lot of New York. There's a couple Orlando. There is Texas, and there's probably a few more things I don't even know about yet.
I got Orlando, Europe, Vegas, New York. I have a Texas as well, and I'm hoping for a California. But it's a pretty full slate between now and the end of the year. We left a couple things on the cutting room floor for this week. We'll probably talk a little bit about the Frontier Spirit merger. We got a little Marriott stuff I want to talk to you about, some new stuff. And then we're going to venture into showing off some products next week now that we're officially licensed on YouTube to show stuff for shopping. So we'll show off some of my favorite Anchor products. Ooh. All that and a whole lot more, Mr. Kerr, until I see you in just a few days. And until we upload again, we've got miles to go. Hey, Professor and Marianne here in Gilligan's room.